Like the sky, so far no marks or lines have ever been drawn on the soul. It is eternally pure, eternally enlightened. No pollution has ever happened to it. And please inhale deeply and exhale. And open your eyes. And that is who we are as yoga teachers. To give the student in front of us, the soul in front of us, an opportunity for the experience of their own sky. Yes, we do asana. Yes, we come together and we do meditation. And all of it's very important to bring us to the point, through grace, that we get the experience when everything else falls away, to be that sky. Anything short of that, as teachers, is too short. So how does one go about doing that? Especially when we're not all sky yet. And we are students too. One way to do it is through humility and through not seeing yourself any better or higher or more developed than the students, really. When those came from the ancient times and Yogi Bhajan came forward in 1969 to America, he said, we must be like an inverted triangle. A triangle as we know it with all square sides is like this. You would think that the teacher would be here, but really the teacher is here. Serving, looking up at the students in great honor and in great awe and with very, very great respect. That they have come on board to take this journey, this very big journey into consciousness, this turbulent journey into consciousness, this dangerous journey into consciousness, this journey that has many, in fact, sometimes more challenges and more pitfalls than if you were just staying in an ordinary life. Because as a spiritual being walking in consciousness, the road gets more narrow and more narrow and more narrow in a sense. We say it's like walking on a double-edged sword. Because what you could have done, maybe even last year or 5 years ago or 10 years ago in your daily life, it's not suitable anymore. Is that right? Perhaps getting drunk anymore is not suitable, or even drinking anymore. Eating flesh is not suitable anymore. Doing drugs, having open sex, having fly-by-night relationships, perhaps they're not suitable anymore to the consciousness that you're going into, where before it felt okay. It's not a time as you come into your teachership to carry guilt either. That's not it. The mind will clear you, consciousness will take care of you, and Guru will guide you, your teacher from within. It's a big journey. Most people alive on planet Earth now don't get this good fortune this earned karma to be who you are sitting here today. You're very, very blessed. And I want you to understand you're more than a asana teacher. Because you are. If you're teaching Ashtanga, Anusara, Iyengar, Kundalini, you're representing the possibility of happiness in the human life. That's why you have to walk your talk. You cannot be up here talking on and on all this beautiful stuff and then walk out the door and not be it. The authenticity that you'll be called upon to be is so big, and that's why it comes with great responsibility and great challenge. If you say it as a teacher, you have to live it. Or you can be humble enough to say, this is my goal also. I'm working on this also. But to just act like you know everything and that you're a big smarty pants, and then not to live it, I would hope you have no students. It's big. It's not just taking a certification course and then deciding that you'll go and make it your business. You get business cards, you do workshops, you put ads in the magazines, the newspapers. You do retreats down in the, wherever you guys go, Spain, Mallorca, I don't know. And you just become, you might even say a celebrity, because yoga is creating all these celebrities, you might say. They come and they go. But if you really want to serve, like I think you've been touched on your forehead to do that with a destination that's really big, it must be done impeccably with authenticity, which means you must have a way of life that's a yogi way of life. For our lineage, I'll go over just a few things that we've been taught that we found tested true, at least myself, the last 40 years. And that is to rise before the sun comes up and bow your head and do what we call sadhana. Have an early morning practice, whatever it is. It can be of a faith, it can be Catholicism, it can be Judaism, it can be Hinduism, it can be something that even you create from the messages from Creator. We have an Aquarian sadhana that we do in our teachings that anybody can be open and we can offer it to them. But you spend at least 31 minutes every morning, up to 2.5 hours. We brush our teeth every day, I imagine. But do you brush your mind? That's what sadhana does. In our lineage, we get up in the morning and we put an oil all over our body, usually almond oil. We massage it in and we take a cold shower. Except women who are in their first 3 days of their menses, and then they do warm water. And after pregnancy, 18 weeks, you do warm water. But you let it go into all the lymphatic system in your body, massaging under your arms, throughout the regions of your body to stimulate and bring the blood to the surface, and newly oxygenated blood going through all your internal organs. We gag, which means we clean the monkey glands, which if you go to India, every place you go, you'll hear people gagging, because it's what people do in the morning. If you're staying in a guest house, whether it's the Tibetan guest house or whether it's a Hindu guest house, a Sikh guest house, a Muslim, it doesn't matter. Everyone's got their toothbrush down their throat. gagging up the toxins that accumulate in your monkey glands. And if you get up and just simply brush your teeth and have a hot cup of tea, you send the toxins back into your system. And it's been known and known and known. Some do the nadis, some scrape the tongue. But some ritual to clean out the day before from your mouth, from your teeth, from your nasal passages, and from your lung glandular area. And then we sit down. We cover our heads. You can just wear a simple cloth to keep the energy in at the 10th gate. So your containment stays within your auric field, so that when you finish, you walk out into the world with very bright light. And then we begin our practice. It does involve asana, but it leans more to meditation, to chanting, to praying. We can share it with you. It's actually on our website, which you can do at home. We gather in groups, in communities, or if we live alone or don't have a community, we still do it. You can place in front, as many of you I'm sure do, pictures of those who you feel very close to, who are either saints, sages who have come before us, or who even are living now. Nature. We encourage every teacher to definitely have an altar in their home where they have a place to bow and sit. And that's how we begin the day. The second teaching is to work hard. To work as a worship. And to love your work. Whatever it is that you do. Most of us don't teach full time. We go off to other jobs. At night we teach, or weekends we teach. But to love it. And if you don't love it, to stop and say, why don't I love it? Could I love it? Or do I need to change work? I spoke about Gandhi last night, and he said the first premise for a human being is to harm no one else in your work. So is your work harming anyone? Is it hurting animals? Is it hurting the environment? Is it hurting people? Maybe in a very subliminal way. The products you're making or helping to develop, are they serving humanity? And if not, as a teacher, I suggest you change jobs. Take those skills elsewhere. Because you have to serve outside the classroom and walk the talk of serving. The second, work hard, share. And if we can do those things, then we can complete our lives in that fashion, giving us true qualifications to be able to teach. Because we're walking it in the day. If we go and teach at night or other times, we not have such a schism. The most important thing for a teacher, I believe, is to want to help people, but not feel sorry for people. And knowing that you don't really have the power to fix people. They can fix themselves. It's their relationship with the Creator. But what you can offer to them is technology, through asana, through meditation, through diet, through counseling, or sending them to others for that. But to feel sorry for someone is to make them a victim, and victims never get out of their situation. Give them away, pray for them, but let them go. They may not make it this lifetime. They may die. They may be in a 4th stage of cancer. They may not. You do what you can do. You pray how you can pray. And then you let them walk how they need to walk. And yes, it doesn't mean that you never get sad or you may never cry for that person. But help them to stand up and walk forward in their own destiny. The world is going faster and faster. More and more people are getting depressed. More and more people are getting sick. The economics aren't supporting the world now. The natural resources. There's so much in our food that's even causing in-uterine things with new babies inside the wombs. There's so much that we have to walk through on this earth, but yet there's always the empty sky. And if you can be the empty sky, you can give others that opportunity to find their own empty sky also. And then life takes on a whole other look for them. I know most of you can recall back when you sat the first time on a yoga mat and did your first class. For some it may not have been as revolutionary, and for others it was like a firecracker under you or an earthquake. The life changed forever. And that's why Yogi Bhajan always said, look back behind you and find the people who were maybe more lost than you were, or more depressed than you were, or more bewildered than you were, or more sick than you were, and say, come on. I can't do it for you, but I can give you some tools. And I'll help and encourage you to do it. And I got well. I came out of whatever I was in, and I know you can do it too. And then they do it. And then they become teachers, and then they turn around and help those behind them. It's almost like a big sister, little sister, a big brother, little brother. Will you help your little brother? Maybe your mom said, will you help your little sister? Help her tie her shoes. She doesn't know how. You don't say, well, why doesn't she know how? She should know how. No, she's a little sister. She doesn't know how yet. Just like people who don't have any tools or any direction for living, they always thought it was just education, money, and everything that most people think is happiness. And then they get to a roadblock or to a wall. They say, this isn't it. I worked so hard. I have so much money or so much fame or so much education or whatever it is, and I'm still not happy. What happened? They told me that if I did all this, I'd be happy. And I'm not. It's not there. And you say, okay, let's go. You worked hard at that, you can work hard at this. And then they do. And they have one experience of connection with self, connection with God. And then usually they just start crying and crying. I know when I first started in 1970, I cried for the first 6 months. I just cried and cried and cried because I had searched for so long to find my home, to find my people, to find my way. And I'd gone from living in a rural community in the Midwest in the United States, raised a very devout Christian, really, really believing in Jesus, which I still do, and Mary, and serving and helping. I came from a very kindly family, but a very unknowing in some ways in the 40s family. They did as good as they could do. I hit the 60s and became a hippie. I thought in my meditation yesterday morning, I could say, I went to the University of Haight-Ashbury and the subject was flower children. Because that's what we were. People thought we were crazy and wild and almost bad, taking drugs and all that. But we were just searching for God. It was as simple as that. But even when you see people out on the street, even the derelict or someone with a cup out, he's searching for God. There's no one that's not. Wanting to make that connection. And you'd be amazed how many people were touched in prisons, in correctional institute for women, pregnancy women, women who are pregnant in prisons. How many homes we've gone into for youth at risks. How many schools we are in throughout the United States now. The programs of the yoga and meditation are taking precedence in so many schools. How many universities have now courses with the hours and everything, the accreditation for yoga and meditation. It goes on and on and on. How I was just reading that the Buddhists are being tested now with all these things connected to their brain to find out that yes, meditation really works. Yes, breath still. Even the medical. Most of them don't tap into it, but they know there's a healing in breath, asana, meditation, chanting. It's coming to a point that it cannot be denied. There was a report that in Lebanon there was great fighting in villages, and it was bombings and fighting. I don't know who they were fighting because everyone's always fighting somebody, but it was they were just hitting towns and villages where there were women and children. There was no discrimination who they were hitting. And so 200 meditators went over from the United States, and they got joined in a village by 1% of the peoples. And they sat and they meditated. They didn't ask for peace. They didn't ask for healing. They didn't ask for the enemy to go away. They just sat in that sky, in that emptiness inside of them. And do you know, within 3 days, the bombing continued all the other places, but nothing came to that village because of the peace that 1% felt. And they've tested other places too. And we have that power as teachers. We can bring the peace to this world by we being meditators and we being the stillness. Plus, so many people will want to come to you. They come to you, they stop me in the airports and they say, first of all, what am I wearing and who am I? And where am I from? You're white, you look like you're from India, we don't get it. So we explain that. But then they always say, there's something about you. I feel so peaceful when I'm around you. What do you do? I say, well, I teach yoga and meditation. But that happens to all of us. Or if you used to be quite turbulent, or angry, or frenetic, or very speedy, and through yoga and meditation you quieted, your voice has changed, you're not talking as fast. People who knew you, what are you doing? People often in America, they say, did you get a facelift? You lost weight? A new hairdo? They can't figure out what it is, and it's really your radiance. It's the light around you. And then you can just say, well, you know, act kind of innocent. You know, it could be the yoga I'm doing and the meditation. And I become a vegetarian, and I decided not to drink anymore. I mean, if that were your play. And you don't say anything else. You don't say, and you should do it too, and all that stuff. No. Just sit quiet. Stand back. 3 days later, it's in your office. 3 days later, they come up and say, what about this yoga stuff? Maybe, do you have a class you go to, or you? Well, I'm teaching now. Really? When is it? Where is it? And pretty soon, they're coming to the class and they're getting touched also. They say, now, what do you do? Just eat carrots? No, there's other food besides carrots that are vegetables. That was always the classic. They say, what do you do? Just eat carrots? Then they say, where do you get your protein? That's the whole documentation, protein. Well, so much colon cancer comes from protein. It can't get out of your body. Flesh protein can't. It gets stuck and putrefies in the pockets of the intestines. There's no vegetarians who get colon cancer. So you might learn that. You don't start just going on and on, especially your families. You don't go on and just crack the whip on them. Let your presence speak louder than your words. If I was up here talking about what I just got through talking, but I was doing it all, you would know it in a flash. If I talked about how alcoholism shuts down your pituitary gland and makes you actually really stupid and non-intuitive, and then I went out and had a beer afterwards, you wouldn't even have to know that. You would know I was talking from somebody else's book. I was not talking what I lived. And yes, I do work on a lot of things. Believe me, I'm not enlightened. You would know if I was enlightened. I'm elevated, but I'm not one with Creator all the time. But you know that there is something I've done for 40 years that lets me be right here to talk to you too. It's not just by chance, or I didn't get born this way. I was nuts. Do you use the word nuts? Yeah, when I look back, I didn't think I was crazy, but when I really look back deeply into my patterning in all those days as a hippie, I was definitely gone. I couldn't go out of my house without smoking marijuana. I didn't even live in a house. I lived in a cave or a tent or just a sleeping bag. I couldn't do anything without something from the outside in me. But we never called it addiction in those days. And luckily I found Kundalini Yoga, or it found me, because through grace, the day I stepped into the ashram in 1970 in Arizona, that's the last time I ever did anything. That was a long time ago. It fell away. I didn't have to rip it out. I smoked, done everything. It wasn't even hard, because what I really was looking for my whole life was my own breath. Nikki and I were just talking how smokers, all we do when we inhale so big, we find our breath. We want our breath so much. And if you watch people that have to go outside their offices, because everyone knows everyone that smokes now because they have to stand out there, or in the airport in those little smoky, terrible smelling boxes, they go, I'm home. I'm home with my breath. But again, it's finding your identity, your existence, your non-separation from self by an outside force. Yoga is complete. Breath is complete. You need nothing. You don't even need other people at that point. Yes, we do need people, of course. But at that point, as we come into this world alone, we leave alone. And without that relationship with self, we can't have the relationship with anybody. Without that self-love, we have no ability to love. All of this, our practice and our lifestyle gives you. And the timing is God's timing. The timing is grace. You can't say by 42 I'll be enlightened. By 43 I'll be blah, blah, blah. It's the timing of the creative force, the timing of your karma, the timing of your destiny, the timing of your astrological, numerological path. That's really none of your business. It's none of my business. Just get up every morning. You do the practice. You go out and try to be as kind and serve as much as you can. And little by little, it comes about. And that's the law. And that's the promise. If you drive from Antwerp to Brussels, and even if you take a lot of different routes, you'll eventually get there. You won't end up in, I don't know, someplace else if you have a road map. And that's the promise. But how long it takes everyone is different. Sometimes the car breaks down. Sometimes there's a roadblock. But with patience and with commitment to your destiny, you will arrive. We can't be promised this lifetime, but we've been here 8.4 million, so who cares? The last thing I want to say is that we're on a great apex right now. We're dawning into this Aquarian age. 2012 is right around the corner, and we have so many people that need all of you right now. They're all seekers of truth. They're all pioneers. They all reincarnated at this time to awaken for this new age that we've been waiting 13,000 years for. It's not a fairy tale. It's true. It's been written in every scripture. When Yogi Bhajan came in 1970 to America, he started talking about it. It's the age and the dawning of a whole new period on planet of Earth where peace will prevail. And that's the promise. And you are those that are leading them. Many people will fall. Many people won't make it. But many will. Don't try to pull people whose maybe destiny is not to make it. And that's okay too. They take their last breath, they go to the other realms, they come back when time is better. So you don't have to try to get all your parents on board and your kids on board or even your mates on board. Just stick to your business. Oftentimes we come down in what we call clusters. Maybe you have 3 kids and a husband and yourself. If you walk your truth and become that radiant light, even if they don't do anything you do, your light shines over them and you carry them. You think, well, that's not fair, I'm doing all the work. It's your honor, and it's your destiny, and it's what you signed up for. And it's very often that they come over also. The children, the mate, in their own way. But let's just say that they don't. That's none of your business. You still are kindly to our path or walk our way. Well, just discard them, get rid of them, recycle them to somebody else. There's somebody else better, or I'm going to go it alone. You signed up for that. And I'm not saying if the person is very, very harmful and injurious to you and just terrible like that. Even if they're like that, if there's any reconciliation, counseling, anything that can help to change them. But just because he's not going at your speed, what an ego tripper we are. We want him to be right up to snuff as we are? No. Maybe we signed up to help carry him or her for a little bit. And I've seen it over and over and over when they come around. From bankers to those you thought would never want to meditate, never want to close their eyes except sleep, never want to lessen their alcohol intake. Through the power of another presence in their home and that auric light around their home, they don't even know why they're changing, but they're changing, and they're happier because of it. You have such a big influence as teachers, as meditators. If it's your workplace, home place, school place, even walking down the street, people feel by you passing them a moment of peace. Maybe even you passing them with a prayer in your heart gives them solution to something that's been troubling and bothering them as they're thinking, as they're walking down the street. I don't know if you know how important you are in this world. How many of you are teachers? And how many of you are thinking to become teachers? Well, let's just do it. The world needs you, and if you didn't think to become a teacher and you're here today, start thinking about it. Because maybe that's why you're here. You don't have to go so far as I'm going to become a teacher. Be first a teacher to yourself. First, be your own teacher, your own guru. And then see what happens. Let us rub our hands together.